pre-recorded demo of our SharePoint site and the Visual Fusion project that displays our operating wind farm. Hopefully, once we go through this demo, you will have a better understanding of what it is that we have achieved. So I'm just going to open this demo now, and this will give you an idea of what the system looks like. Okay, so here we have our Visual Fusion interface, and this sits inside SharePoint. It has Bing Maps that sits in the background, and the user can change whether they want to see road, aerial, or a low light background. We also have a number of tools that the user can use, whether it be a measurement tool or a map query tool. And also we can pan and zoom within this mapping interface, much as you would in Google Maps or other mapping interface programs. And of course the background automatically caches as you do this. On the right-hand panel, we have a direct link to our spatial data stored within our SDE databases. I'm just clicking on the operating wind farms now, and as we hover about over each feature, you can see that the labels come up for each project. Again, with the development projects, we have the same thing. As you click on an individual feature, in this details panel on the right, you can actually see the data display that's in the SDE database. We also have our monitoring mask within this system, and that displays the operating and no longer operating masks that we have used for our projects. Now, one of the great features about Visual Fusion is it has a tool when we have clustering. So if we have too many points located into each other, you can actually select on this and they will expand out, and then you can select them much more easily. Again, the details come up for that feature that I've just selected. We also have in this interface the actual spatial data for individual projects. You can see here on the right we've got a list of our operating wind farms. Now, because we're zoomed out, the data is not going to display, and you can see it's giving us a warning of check altitude. That's because we're too far out to see this data. So what we're going to do is zoom into one of our projects. We're going to go to Southwest Victoria and zoom into our Yambuk wind farm. In the location finder at the bottom left-hand corner, we type in Yambuk and press enter. That will then zoom us into our location for our Yambuk wind farm. Now we're going to expand the Yambuk wind farm data and select some features that we want to view. Let's select turbine layout. This will show us the location of our turbines. As we do this, you can see that each turbine is displayed. As we hover over them, we can see which one is which. Now we can actually zoom and pan, as we did before, and we can select other GIS features as well. Let's bring up the landholder boundaries and the houses. Now, as we zoom and pan, you will notice that the data is actually brought up only for that window. This actually means that the data comes quite quickly into the system. Now again, we can hover over these elements and see what they're called, and we can also select them to see this information. Now, I just want to mention here that if a GIS person was to change this data inside the GIS database, this information would automatically be reflected in this interface, so there's no additional work. Now, some of the tools we have is a measurement tool. We can actually measure the distance, say, between a turbine and a house, or we can do something like a spatial query. So we'll go back to our tools menu, select spatial query, where we can do a rectangle, circle, or polygon. I'm going to choose polygon and go around these three houses. Once I do that, I can actually expand the houses file inside the details panel, and that'll show the three houses that I've selected. Here it's 7, 8, and 11. Once I clear that spatial query, all the houses will just be displayed back in that list. We also have what we call the document linking to SharePoint. So I'm just going to bring up the general wind farm project locations again and select the one for Yambuk wind farm. So here we go. Here's the operating project. I'm going to select Yambuk, and you'll see in the bottom of the screen here I've got a document panel. Now this actually displays all the documents that have been linked to that particular GIS feature. It shows all the different metadata elements and can be opened from this window. But to show you how easy that system works, what I'm going to do is switch to a second demonstration, and we're going to upload a test document, and I'll show you how that's linked inside SharePoint and then viewed inside the Visual Fusion. So just bear with me for a moment as we open this up. Now this displays our SharePoint system inside Pacific Hydro. Now we're just going to go into the Wind Services Library, which is one of the libraries I often work in, and I'm going to open up the document and load it into the system. Now, here is all the general metadata elements that we have for our system. Now, a lot of these are required fields, and we basically just import this information, as you can see. Okay, and this is the information that will actually be stored inside or viewed in Visual Fusion. Here you can see the GIS feature code. Now, this is the code that's actually going to link it to the feature inside Visual Fusion. The rest of that metadata will just be displayed as columns in the document panel. So you can see here, I've got the test document in the library. I'm going to publish a major version, basically because permissions in SharePoint translate through in permissions inside Visual Fusion. So now we're going to bring up the Visual Fusion Operations Wind Farm site. And here it is again. And we're going to zoom to Cape Bridgewater because that's the GIS feature code that I actually linked that test document to. So we enter it into the location finder and we zoom into Cape Bridgewater. Now I'm just going to bring up the general feature for Cape Bridgewater and expand that out. Now I'm going to select that feature and open up the document panel. And here we go, here's our test document. Now you can see it's actually got all the metadata in those columns that I actually previously assigned as I uploaded that document. It's also got a link to that document, so I can open it from this site. And that can be a PDF, a Word, Excel, whatever it is. It'll open from there. Also, I can actually do a search and filter. So here, let's say we only wanted documents that had test in the title. So we type that into the filter at the top. And now we can see only those documents. There's a couple of maps there as well with test in the title. And then we've got our test document there. So that's basically all I wanted to show you. Hopefully that gives you a bit more of an understanding of what our solution is and what it looks like. And yeah, I'll hand back to you, Clint.
Great, thanks for that, Maya. Fantastic presentation. I did ask in my introduction for attendees to place questions in the GoToWebinar question panel. And for those of you who are online, there's still time for you to do that, and we'll answer those questions now. There have some that have already come in, and the team have started to answer those individually. But what I wanted to do now is put you on the spot, Maya, and just cover some of the recurring questions that have come in. So the first question is, how long did the two applications that you've presented today take to make?
Yeah, well, if we don't think about the actual scoping process, where we determined exactly what it was we wanted to see, the operational wind farm site took about a month to build. This included time for us to sort of test and tweak it and give it the look and feel that we actually wanted. The health and safety site was a lot easier because that was a lot of out-of-the-box functionality. And so that actually took only about a week to make.
Great. Well, sounds pretty fast in my... The second question I have is, did Pacific Hydro look at other technologies before deciding on Visual Fusion as the application?
Yeah, we sure did. Prior to engaging GT, we did a fairly rigorous vetting process on the other systems out there. And the thing that impressed us most about Visual Fusion is, firstly, it was really SharePoint focused as opposed to GIS focused. And since the majority of our users have no GIS experience, this was actually a really important feature for us. Secondly, we were really impressed by the out-of-the-box functionality. A lot of the systems we had seen required a significant amount of customization, and we didn't really want to get caught in that trap of funneling endless money into a consultancy work. And I think that can kind of happen with a lot of these things.
Thanks, Maya. And a third question which relates to something that you mentioned in that answer, which is, how easy is it for non-GIS users to get acquainted with Visual Fusion?
Yeah, look, I think it's been a really easy transition, basically because our staff are already using SharePoint, and as far as they're concerned, it's pretty much all the same system to them. We've had heaps of positive feedback with what we've done so far, and I'm constantly having people come up to me with additional ideas and additional things that we can do. So I guess, in a way, that probably sort of speaks for itself. But yeah, it's all been good.